Welcome to the channel. This is my Arisaka Type 99 in 7.7 by 58 Arisaka. And this particular gun, again, I have decided to put it out of service. I've shot it now for about 7 or 8 years, and it's time for something new. Basic functionality. We have the bolt over here, which also has a dust cover on it. I will see if I can close it for you. I'll have to push down there. So it closes down and it cocks on push. So when you close the bolt, you have to push it forward to cock the spring and then turn the lever down. The dust cover covers the front. These were all largely lost. I think this one's a replacement. You can then pull the trigger, gun goes bang, up it goes, back it goes, push it down again, forward and close, and now we can use the safety, push that in the rear, give it a twist, can't open it, can't pull the trigger, and to unlock it again we push it in, give it a twist again, and now the rifle is ready to fire. Now, one of the quirks of this particular gun is that you cannot decock it unless you cock it. So that means that if you want to relieve pressure on the string, that's as good as you're going to do. And I hate that. That's one of the things I really hate about it. Bolt removal is very simple. We just open up, and on the side over here we have the same deal as on a Kar 98. We just lever that open, let go, bolt comes out, done. Over here we have the sighting mechanism. In the front you can see we have the two protective blades on either side, and in the middle is what I can only describe as a Trivial Pursuit piece, which matches up quite nicely with the sight system over here. See, we have a peep sight over here. And if we want to raise in longer distances, you can pop that up, and then you can have a sight system at greater distances. There used to be little wings that folded out over there for shooting aircraft. I don't know, they had ideas. I don't think any of them got hit with that. That's all very rudimentary. Under here we have the monopod, so you can deploy that and try shooting with that. There have been competitions where I claimed that as the bipod was an integral part of the rifle, I should be allowed to use it. I never got it through. I'd also say that the bipod is too high. So for me, myself, and I'd cut it off to like there somewhere, you know, if I was in the Japanese army and I wanted to hit something. Underneath here, we have a button. I need to get up for that. So right there, and if we push that, we can get out the cleaning rod, which is over here and is very dirty. It's still very greasy. I'll put that in, and then push it in, let go of it, and done. Other things to note are in the rear. The stock here, this is made of two parts. So traditionally, I assume the wood that they used here was not in great supply in Japan. So they had the main part which runs like here, and then they stuck another bit down. These come apart on Arisakas a lot. On the other side over here, we still have a sling pin. I don't tend to use that. Underneath here then we have the magazine, the internal magazine, and there's a pull thing here for releasing it. I won't bother with that now. Another sling mounting place over here. When I bought this particular firearm was a vet bring back, and apparently the shop, the dealer that I bought this from, bought it from the widow of the gentleman that brought it back, and it came of one of the island chains, and he just brought it back, and that was that, and that's how it got to the States, and then it got exported to the UK, got a British proof mark. Why do I believe that? Well, do I believe it? I think it's a nice story that I lean towards believing it, and I'll tell you why. The first one is that at the rear over here we have the Emperor's Mark, the chrysanthemum, which are normally vandalized before these guns were surrendered or shipped to the States for general sale. There's a second one over here. Where is it? Right there. I hope you can see that clearly. It's right there. You can see there's been an attempt with the bayonet mark, or there could have been an accidental scratch. I don't know, but it's still largely intact. The ones you can get in the States that were imported after the war, they had an angle grinder go over it, you know, I mean, proper and hard. The other thing that gives credence to the story is the bayonet. Now, this particular gun is very early. This is 1939, I believe. You can look up all the various makers, stamps, and where they were made and all the rest of it. But the bayonet is very late in the war. And if you look at it, it is pristine. You can see over here, so this is the late type, the early type curled around and had a little bauble there. This is definitely a late type bayonet. And it was sold with a gun. And these bayonets on their own, this particular bayonet is worth a few £100. And I think you would make more selling the bayonet and the gun separately. But I got sold them together because I was told that that's how they came on the beach. That's the vet bring back. And I intend to sell them again together. I mean, I'm not going to split this up. While we're on the bayonet, it's huge. I mean, look at the size of this. Just look how long this is. This is mad. I would not shoot competition with the bayonet fixed on this thing. I mean, I think they're far better guns. This thing is huge and it's wobbly, and I don't think you'll get much accuracy. Next story then is that these particular guns, getting a little bit general now, were renowned for having a very strong action. Allegedly testing, they are stronger than everything else, supposedly. It's one of those things that wildly quoted. I don't know where exactly it comes from. What I would say is that if you have a look at the rifling, a lot of thought went into these guns. These particular guns, barrels are chrome, and the type of rifling they have, it looks almost shot out because there are no sharp edges in it. It's called Medford rifling, where you kind of round everything over, and the idea is that it becomes much easier to clean, and secondly there are no places for rust to hide, and that I have cleaned this particular barrel. I have shot maybe 500 rounds through it, if not more, and I have cleaned it with 2 patches. That's it. 2 patches went through here with a little bit of a carbon remover. That's all I've done to it, and it is very clean. So I think they got that very well and very good. While we're on the subject of these guns, there's also the dreaded last stitches. This obviously isn't one. The last stitches came out at the end of the world and are pretty terrible. This one, as I said before, is an early example, and the bayonet is a late example. Now, my shooting experience with these, I'll have to get the files out. I used a lot of PPU cases predominantly. They got brought in at some stage. They're plentiful and everywhere. They didn't cost very much either. And you had the 7.7 Japanese stamp underneath. If you pushed for them, I have also, when I first got this gun, and brass wasn't an easy supply, you can make your own fire formula cases using 30-06. And I've done that as well. I just trimmed to length, annealed, chased it through the 7.7 Arisaka die, brought back to length again, I think, or were they slightly short? It was something like that, I can't remember. You'll have to look at the dimensions and see what there is. I think I also had to put a little bit of sticky tape around it for the first fire forming, because there was a little bit of looseness in the chamber. I seem to remember, I don't really remember the details, but my point is you can do it. You might have to go hunting and see what information you can find. Now, the loads that I did with this is I started off with 123 grain full metal jacket boat tail, which I think I got the load for that out of Cartridges of the World, and that's IMR 3031, and I used 45 grains, which gave me around 2,800, 2,900 feet per second, and using 45 grains of IMR 3031, and with 46 grains of IMR 3031, I got around 2,900, 2,950. That was fine, no pressure signs, but I didn't go for it, and the reason for that is that the original ammunition that they used was a heavier head, and so in the end I did it all again with 175 grain SMK, and in that case I started off with 38.1 grain of IMR 3031, which produced around 2,200 feet per second. I did 39.5 grains of IMR 3031, again with 175 grain SMK, and that produced around 2,300 feet per second. I then used 41 grain of IMR 3031, which did about 2,500 feet per second, maybe a little less, maybe 2,450. And finally, I did 175 grains of Sierra Match King with Hodgdon 4350 and I used 44 grains of that, and that produced around 2,000 feet per second. In the end, I settled on the IMR 3031. I got a couple of tubs full. And my final load was the 41s because the velocities for the 41 grain were a little bit faster than the original military load, but I didn't get full obturation. I got a bit of blow by, a bit of dirt and what have you not on the casing. So I just upped it a little bit. I have a feeling there was a little bit of weather involved. I think I did the initial chronoing in summer, and in winter I got problems. In the end, I used IMR 3031, 41 grains with 175 grain SMK, and that worked well. That was just fine. None of those showed any pressure. This is a 303 diameter head, I should say. There are people that say you can just use a 303 load. I'd be always careful of statements like that. They always make me uncomfortable. Finally then, if I were to try and fire this gun, I aim and my thumb is already touching my nose. So if I line up, my thumb is touching my nose. If I were to pull the trigger, I get a sharp rapport right on the nose. It just basically, it whacks your nose. It whacks my nose. Yeah, it just every time, boom, ow, you know, every time the little nose. And so you have to use one of these rubberized extensions. I'm not keen. The sight system, which is basically a peephole together with a Trivial Pursuit sort of corner in the front. That works very well. I actually think that's extremely pleasant. That's actually nicer than an AR-15 sort of open sight sort of system where you have a pin in the front. So I think that wraps it about up. That is then the Type 99, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.